Good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Sarah, would you please take the roll call?
Mercedes Evans.
Here.
Thomas Fink.
Here.
Michelle Forbes.
Here.
Jennifer Hoover.
Here.
Tim Jackson.
Here.
Louisa La Sava. Emily Smith.
Here.
Josiah Garber.
Okay, that brings us to President's announcements, and I'm going to read a prepared statement, and if you'll please just bear with me for a little bit, for a few minutes as we get through this, and it'll shed some light on the actions of this evening on our agenda. So, tonight we will consider two actions, one of which is to waive Borough Council's right to appeal in the sign ordinance litigation, and two, to authorize the Borough Solicitor to negotiate a settlement agreement. So let me explain our reasoning. Thursday, May 9th was a disappointing day for the Borough. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in the challenge to the Camp Hill Borough sign ordinance, affirming the lower court's decision and striking down certain sign ordinance provisions related to temporary signs and other signs exempt from the permitting process. We have since evaluated the decision, and we feel the Third Circuit's misguided decision ignores a long line of supporting case law and in multiple instances is overly rigid and based on misstatements of the ordinance. The holding not only threatens traffic safety and the borough's unique aesthetics, but it will also have a precedential impact on boroughs and local governments across the Commonwealth. Also, we remain firmly convinced that we can balance our commitment to improving and safeguarding the quality of life of those who live, work, learn, and play in the borough, while honoring protections the First Amendment affords each borough resident. We believe content-neutral regulations are possible and appropriate in a uniquely dense community such as ours. While we disagree with the Third Circuit's application of the law, our desires to reach an agreement with the plaintiff's legal counsel to reduce costs, avoid uncertainty, and put an end to this dispute, all of which outweigh the pursuit of any further appeal. Hindsight is 20/20, and we believe the litigation and the public events surrounding this dispute are unfortunate, and both were avoidable. So for background, in December of 2021, Borough Council, under different leadership, adopted the sign ordinance long before any currently serving Borough Council member was elected to serve. On October 21st, 2022, the Borough's Planning and Zoning Committee, of which Emily Smith and myself were a member of, met and discussed potential revisions to the sign ordinance, considering public comments that had been received. Specifically, the Planning and Zoning Committee discussed increasing the number of non-commercial temporary signs allowed. Members of the Camp Hill Republican Association were present at that meeting. After the October 21st meeting, no one from the Camp Hill Republican Association or the individual plaintiffs contacted the borough to discuss the ordinance, despite Borough Council welcoming feedback. It wasn't until the afternoon of Tuesday, October 25th, that the borough was contacted by the plaintiff's counsel requesting confirmation of the borough solicitor and whether he would accept service. Just an hour after initial contact, the borough solicitor received a copy of a motion for a temporary restraining order and the complaint initiating litigation against the borough. At no time between the October 21st Planning and Zoning Committee meeting and the filing of the lawsuit did plaintiffs attempt to work with the borough to revise the ordinance in a manner that was satisfactory to them. The plaintiffs also did not file an appeal with the borough requesting an amendment to the zoning ordinance, which they could have, or anyone of the borough could have done at any time after Borough Council adopted the revised ordinance in 2021. So let's fast forward to April 2023, when the U.S. District Court determined that certain provisions of the sign ordinance Borough Council adopted in December 2021 was not legal. Following this decision, the borough faced a fee petition from plaintiffs' legal counsel that exceeded $300,000 for less than 5 months of litigation. Legal issues surrounding First Amendment rights are far from settled, and based on recent case law trends, the borough had a legitimate and good faith belief that its appeal could be successful. What's more, the potential to save public funds was central to Borough Council's motivation in seeking its appeal on these uncertain legal issues. Had the borough's appeal been successful in whole or in part, the borough would have been able to either eliminate or significantly reduce the inflated attorney fee petition to the public's benefit. Unfortunately, the borough was unsuccessful in its appeal, and plaintiff's legal counsel has now asked the court to increase its prior fee petition with around $100,000 in additional fees and costs. Notably, most of the new costs are related to plaintiff's legal counsel's efforts to ask for their fees rather than their work preparing for the appeal. Borough Council has always been open to finding a resolution, but the plaintiffs wanted to litigate these issues to finality. When the plaintiffs filed the lawsuit, the borough offered an interim resolution. The borough would not enforce the challenge provisions through December 31st, 2022, in exchange for the plaintiffs withdrawing the request for a temporary restraining order. Borough Council's solicitor proposed the offer at 4:46 p.m. on Wednesday, October 26th. The plaintiffs rejected the offer just after 9 a.m. the following morning. After a short conference with the judge and at her insistence, the parties entered into a nearly identical stipulation to the borough's proposal. After that, the litigation proceeded through the discovery process until final argument was made at the Third Circuit Court of Appeals in January 2024. The borough is keenly aware that the fees plaintiffs' legal counsel claims they are owed are public funds. Fortunately, the borough's out-of-pocket costs to defend against this litigation have been very low because insurance has covered the borough's legal fees to date. Notably, the fees charged by the borough's legal counsel are a fraction of what plaintiffs' legal counsel is seeking. The borough's insurance, however, will not cover plaintiffs' counsel fees, and the insurance coverage for its own fees may run out if the parties continue to litigate the issues surrounding the plaintiff's counsel's fees. Any amount paid to plaintiff's counsel will come directly from taxpayer dollars. In closing, Borough Council can reduce those costs by reaching an agreement with the plaintiffs for below what plaintiff's legal counsel is seeking. Given shared concerns between us and the plaintiffs about fiscal impact of the litigation, we are hopeful that the plaintiffs will act in the best interest of the taxpayers and work with us toward reaching an agreement. Otherwise, Borough Council will be obligated to contest opposing legal counsel's exorbitant fees. Thank you. Also, for the good of the order and for those in attendance and watching, we will have a statement posted to the website tomorrow as well. That brings us to public comments. Please come to the podium, state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'm Greg Pearson, 367 North 25th Street. What you just said is false and it's a lie. We did come to you. We came to you August of 2022. Colton sitting right there. I have documentation that we tried to work it out with you, this side ordinance. But because you discriminated politically against us for our Trump shit, this is where it came out. That solicitor should be fired, and he should pay for this, not us, okay? Mark, if you're listening, do not take anything less than what you are owed. I'm telling you what, I have everything documented here. We had the choice to go and pay $500 to appeal it, but it was not refunded to us. We went to Sarah Gibson. And is it Borough's Council protocol to suggest that we just wait 2 weeks and then you can put up as many as you want? We won't come after you. That's going against what the ordinance was supposed to be in the first place. That is false. You should be fired for that right away. That is bullshit, okay? Number two, stop. We're not 2 years old.
I
okay?
would like to remind all residents
No,
to
no, you
refrain
be
from
quiet.
language, please.
No, we're not 2 years old
Unless you
here.
want me to sit here and swear at you, I would
You
respect
can.
that you do
That's
not
your right.
swear at us.
Once again, this is our First Amendment right. That's what we're fighting about here.
If you
okay?
refer to the borough agenda, it asks
don't
all
care what
residents
you
and all
say.
council members to
Don't
speak
give a shit about
mutually
what
with
you say.
civil
Okay,
discourse.
well, if
Thank
the
you
rever-
very
if
much.
it was reversed, you would not be giving us a break. You'd be coming after us full force because of who we are politically. That's the bottom line. Nothing else here. This whole ordinance was the Pearson side ordinance. You are part of this problem. You should be freaking canned, buddy. Gone. You're a piece of crap. You're costing us so much money.
Sir.
How much money did you get? How much money did you get so far?
Sir, please. I think we're
237,000?
at 3 minutes. Thank you.
That's not 3 minutes yet.
Then please.
Well, I got a couple more times, so I'm coming right back to it. I got something for you then, too, that's very
Thank you,
interesting.
Mr. Pearson.
You're
Anyone
quite
else?
welcome.
Thank you.
It is bullshit. We came to you. You told us not to.
Thank you.
I just have one thing to say. That is 100% false. We did try to come
Oh,
to
name
you.
and address, please.
Pardon?
Name and address, please.
Katie Pearson, 367 North 25th Street.
Thank you.
I just want to state it publicly. I have the receipts, the documents. We did come to you. I personally had an hour-and-a-half conversation with Colton when he came to my house. He couldn't answer some of my questions. I wrote him an email. He asked for it. He said he would get back to me within 2 days to 2 weeks. He did not. I went to Mark Simpson's house. I spoke with him, asking for the definition of a personal expression sign or a temporary sign. He couldn't answer that. He told me to look it up in the code, which is what I did, which is what I used in my correspondence when I sent it back to Colton. Went to Sarah Gibson's office also. So you cannot say that this was just in your face and you didn't know about it and that you were trying to make changes, but your hands were tied after the lawsuit. That's just false. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi. I had something else written, but after your statement, I'm going to change
Name and
it a little
address,
bit.
please.
Anita Burton, 2312 Logan Street. I'll still read what I wrote in a second. I'm here as a resident and a taxpayer. A lot of you guys weren't on the Borough Council. When the sign lawsuit started, I was a witness in the lawsuit. Lee Stennett's office subpoenaed me by sending a fake Amazon driver to my house with a fake box, so to come to my door to serve me with papers, asking for what turned out to be 86 pages of text messages between Ms. Pearson and myself and the other plaintiff. Because of those text messages, I had to provide any text message that had the word sign in it, and I complied 100%. I took it very serious, what was happening. Then with the conversations about the sign, I was subjected to hours of depositions, as was my husband. And the reason I share this with you right now is because I learned during those depositions that I was allowed to be there and watch the other people's depositions, Alyssa Packer, the former president. And I implore you guys to do some fact-finding on your own, please. I beg you as I'm standing here to do fact-finding, because I think you're hearing like the telephone game. It's being passed along and you're just not passing along correct, accurate information. But someone who has been here since the beginning has been Mr. Lee Stennett. And I sat through hours of depositions. I took pages and pages of notes that I have under Alyssa Packer's depositions. And people had been complaining about this for months, even before Katie Pearson. I also have the transcripts from those depositions. So Ms. Hoover, what you're saying tonight in your statement, I'm begging you, it's not all true. And I have a suspicion that Lee probably helped you write that. You guys don't know what those depositions did to me personally, the amount of stress. And I even shared with Lee's attorney, this is absolutely an intimidation tactic to get us to bow out of this and to get the plaintiffs to bow out. That's all I have to say on that, and I'd like to quickly just read my statement. You guys don't have all of the facts, so if I may have additional time to just read what I had written, please, if that would be all right.
Keep mindful to our 3-minute limit, please.
I'm trying to find it. As a borough, I don't think we've received the best legal advice when it comes to the sign ordinance. And even if we all do believe right now that we did receive the best advice, as a taxpayer and a resident, it doesn't seem appropriate that the same law firm who drafts the ordinance, then if sued, defends the ordinance, and then if the ruling is against the borough, which is still me, I'm still a taxpayer, the ruling was against me, the same law firm advises the council, which was the old council, most of you weren't even there, that same law firm then advises the council on whether or not to appeal it. Something seems off there. Looking into the future and with rumblings from property owners regarding the new rental ordinance, there's a very real possibility that we're going to find ourselves in a similar lawsuit in the very near future. Maybe. I'm not saying definite, but it looks like it's heading that way. I'd like to make a request of this council, everyone who's here right now, to make a policy that if we do find ourselves in this type of situation again, that we have a third-party consultant, a third-party legal consultant, that where we can get a second opinion before proceeding and making this type of mistake again. This would protect this current council and all future councils from something like this happening again. Lee Stennett has the convenience of being the same person, and it's different members and being able to play the telephone game, and this isn't fair. What you said tonight, Ms. Hoover, it's not the truth. I was there for hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. I appreciate, is that on? Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to address you and the fact that you allow so many opportunities for public
Oh,
comment.
name and address, please.
Pardon?
Name and address,
Oh,
please.
sure.
Thank you.
David Margolis, 1714 Lincoln Drive. I'd like to address you later on, right at the end, about more specifically about so it's conditional use appeal number 4 that I think you just received some information on. The general kind of comment I have for now is, generally about short-term rentals. I have a suggestion that if you're still sending out a letter each year to all property owners, indicating that they need to indicate whether or not they're using their property as a rental, that you include some information about the short-term rentals, and so that they're clear that there are a little different rules, and it's very restrictive in the community, and just they should check with you and make the appropriate arrangements if they have they're planning a short-term rental situation, because it's a national issue, and I know all municipalities and cities like you are having to deal with it, but I also think that in many cases, because it's been so prevalent and it's not been enforced, that people just simply aren't aware, and many people are just going along thinking or looking, because the Camp Hill address is so much wider than the borough. They see Camp Hill rentals and they just assume that that's okay in Camp Hill. So thank you, and I'll speak to you later.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. That brings us then to the manager's report, please.
Good evening. I just want to give you a few updates on some activities that we've been working on that aren't on the agenda at other places. Our Bee City Committee volunteers just finished their spring planting in the pollinator garden in the Clark Courtyard, which is right outside that door. They've added new plants around the benches as well this year, and all of the plants are labeled. And we have also added an educational sign that visitors to the garden can reference. The volunteers hosted a stand at the Market on Market Farmers Market and distributed seed packets with planting instructions to those who stopped by. They also recruited some new volunteers to help with watering the garden. All of this was paid for with a Pennsylvania American Water environmental education grant. We have achieved the silver designation under the Soul Smart program. We have our board over there for our press release. Soul Smart is a nationwide program that's led by the Interstate Renewable Energy Council and the International City and County Management Association, which is funded by the U.S. Department of Energy. Solar U.S. Department of Energy Solar Energy Technologies Office. I wrote that all out so I don't forget. Our steps to achieve this designation were a great team effort by our staff with special training, streamlined permitting forms, and a solar landing page on our website, which provides a tremendous amount of information for anyone considering installing solar panels at their home or business. The Campbell Fire Department worked through special training as well. So we are now one of 25 participating communities in Pennsylvania, only 3 of which are in central Pennsylvania and only 10 of which have silver rating or higher. So I'm really proud that we're being a leader in our sustainability efforts. On May the 9th, I attended the annual banquet for the Harrisburg Area Transportation Study. And we have received funding, and this has been an ongoing project for the Cumberland Boulevard feasibility analysis that was presented to council last month. We will be presenting that to the HATS board on Friday. And we are also working with other municipalities to apply for federal funds through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program grant. And that would support a road safety audit on a section of the bypass. And they had an open house here at the borough last night. I presented to the American Planning Association, to planners from around the area, to discuss the progress the borough is making on the implementation of our climate action plan. The audience was impressed by the work our sustainability committee is doing to promote residents reducing their greenhouse gas output. I attended the Association of Pennsylvania Municipal Managers annual conference in May. This conference was an excellent opportunity to interface with municipal managers from across the state, and I appreciated the professional development and education about topics such as economic development and emergency services management. I will be the conference chairperson for this event in 2025, which will be held in Lancaster. And I also, on June the 3rd, attended the Boroughs Association and represented the borough there. I participated in several sessions focusing on challenging legal issues facing municipalities. We also heard from a legislative panel, which included Senator Greg Rothman, who spoke about state issues they are passionate about, including distracted driving, stormwater fees for state-owned buildings, and use of radar by local police departments. So these are some of the activities that I've been working on. Again, these are things that are not included in other areas of the agenda. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Next will be the mayor's report offered on behalf of the chief.
Excuse me. Mayor Simpson's not here this week, as you know. I did want to report on his behalf that the police department handled 1,035 calls for service this past month, May. Also, we drove 4,400 miles on patrol in the borough during the month of May. As far as training, we have some upcoming training next week. I know the committee's aware of this. It's constitutional use of force and de-escalation, which will be held here. We're hosting it here in the borough. I don't have any fire department information.
Thank you very much. Engineer's report, please.
Thank you. I have several things to report this evening and a couple of action items requested. First up, the Seabrook Park pump station project is substantially complete. There are 2 items holding up final completion, which is delivery of a stop switch for the generator and completion of some interior painting work, which was hindered by humidity and rainy weather. We'd like to request approval of a no-cost change order to extend that contractor's completion time out to August 15th to allow them time to address those couple of issues. The curb ramp project has begun this week. That includes intersections in a few different areas, the northwest kind of corner of the borough, and then a few by the library. Contractor is starting in the northwest corner of the borough because that's where we will later need to pave in our second contract of the summer. No other action on that for this month. The paving project, we're scheduling a pre-construction meeting for that within the next week or 2. That will follow the curb ramp project, so you'll see that later in the summer. The streetscape project has moved from phase 2 to now phase 3, so the contractor's working on the south side of Market Street east of 21st. After phase 3, they will switch to the north side and then work their way back through phases 4 and 5. We do have a payment application from the contractor this month for that project in the amount of $194,265.30. We've found it to be in order. We reviewed all of their quantities, et cetera, and would like to request approval of that payment this evening. Also underway is the Seabird Park Stream Trail and Kayak Launch Project. This is a joint project between Borough Council and the Stormwater Authority. The contractor started work on that this month. So far, all of the work that they're doing is stream restoration work, and so is money that the Stormwater Authority should ultimately be responsible for. Because of the agreement, we're asking that both bodies approve the payment. So we'd like to request a payment, approval of application for payment number 1 to that contractor, ARRC, in the amount of $99,840.47. That's everything I have.
Thank you, Mike. That brings us to our consent agenda. Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Emily moves, Michelle seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That brings us to our first action item, to consider waiving the right to appeal. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Emily moves, Michelle seconds to waive the right to appeal. Any discussion? I would just like to add that the borough's consideration of a sign ordinance dates back to at least pre-2015. So there were many years of conversation and deliberation about the sign ordinance prior to its adoption and its involvement before that time. So all in favor to waiving the right to appeal, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. That brings us to our next action item, to consider authorizing the solicitor to reach a settlement agreement. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Mercedes moves. Louisa seconds to authorize the solicitor to reach a settlement agreement. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. That brings us then to our discussion items of reports of committees and liaisons. We will start with Tim from Public Safety.
Yeah, so the committee met and principally discussed the traffic and speeding issues around Country Club Hills. There was an initial group of proposals that were discussed, some of which included line striping, which has occurred, working with neighboring police chiefs, which also has occurred. Updates will be available at the next committee meeting. And additionally, an engineering study to accompany those line striping efforts. And really the reason is because of the undue speeding issue that continues around in that area, which different parts of the borough are looking to address as aggressively and completely as possible. The other item that was discussed is a series of Coffee with a Cop. The next event will occur on June 20th at Cornerstone. And then finally, some brief discussion around the police policy manual updates, and no substantial changes occurred, and we'll look to adopt those changes at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Oh, yeah. Any discussion, questions for Tim?
Yes, I have two. One is, there's a coffee with a Cop this coming Friday at the new coffee shop, right?
Yes.
Right, just
Good ground.
good ground.
244 South 17th Street.
And second is, I live on the other side of the bypass, travel down Country Club, and I saw the lines painted. They're really painted in the early part of that street, and it surprised me because I thought the speeding occurred further down on the street. And is there a rationale for why they're, in the first part of the Country Club? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so, and certainly I'll let the chief respond in more detail. I do know that part of the effort was with HRG, and as a result of their study, they, in essence, painted the lines as appropriate.
There are actually two separate locations where the
Okay.
lines have been painted.
That makes sense.
The straightaway and also up around in the 900 block, which is almost out of the borough, but is still one of two areas up there where we did speed studies and it indicated that there was speeding on both of those sections.
It seems to me that, yeah, that further down is where people pick up steam as they go down the hill. And
Yes.
okay, good, good. Thank you.
Go ahead, Louisa.
Okay, the Public Works Committee met on June 4th. The final draft of the RITU report for the Camp Hill Bypass Alternative Transportation Feasibility Analysis is expected any day now. We will post it on the website when we receive it. The executive summary was emailed to you yesterday. And then it will be open for public comment until our July 10th meeting. So the Market Street Streetscape project, as Mike mentioned, is progressing. So that will be our second action item. And bills are going out soon for the first two sections that have been completed, and residents have 30 days to decide how they're going to pay their bill. We had a shredding event on June 4th, which was a great success. We had about 60 cars and shredded about 3,000 pounds of paper and increased the number of farmers market shoppers to more than 1,000 that day. Another action item is, sorry, I'm not doing this in order. Okay, in order, the first action item will be the no-cost extension for the Seabird Park pump station replacement contract that Mike explained the reason for. The second action item will be the second payment for the streetscape. Third action item will be the first payment for the Seabird Park project. And the fourth action item will be an amendment to our enterprise lease agreement to add a V-box salt spreader. And I was told we could have that. There it is. So this salt spreader will save the crew some time because it will automatically push the salt to the spreader. That's how I understand it. I think that's all for Public Works. Right now, I'll talk more when it comes to stormwater.
Thank you, Louisa. Any questions for Louisa? Okay. Then moving on to Community and Business Relations, please.
Okay, so at our last meeting, the committee has pretty much finalized the wayfinding signs for Market Street Streetscape project. The only thing left is to check to see if there are duplicate signs already in place. And after several discussions with some members of the DCHA about the Sustainable Storefront Program, we have decided that instead of having a Sustainable Storefront Program, we will have Sustainable Stories. And so each month, we will feature one of our local businesses and highlight what they're doing to be more sustainable. The stories will be posted in the e-digest, the borough website, and on both of the borough and DCHA social media channels. And the last last thing is that we reviewed the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding between the DCHA and the borough, and the committee recommends approving the MOU. That's it.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm curious about the wayfinding sign. I was in that committee last year.
LOL.
Did you go with your design?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, is your design that?
Yeah, so the shape of the sign is remaining the same, but we're replacing that logo that was designed by the other firm with the same Camp Hill logo that we have now on everything, the blue and white one. Yes,
And then it says Borough of Camp Hill.
it says Borough of Camp Hill, yeah.
It'd be beautiful.
Yeah, it was more about where we were putting them and
Yeah.
what we're wayfinding is really what it has come down to for us.
Right, because we had a lot of things to find.
Yeah, and not a lot of places to put those signs.
Right.
I just have one comment on the MOU, and that is that at the Downtown Camp Hill Association meeting, was it this week? I think it was this week. They approved the MOU from their side. There were very few changes to the MOU, just a part about reviewing a separate budget for the market every year, and a couple verbiage changes about what DCHA provides for the borough.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Parks and Recreation.
Oh, that's me. We met May 28th, and we have a couple action items today. One is acknowledging the gift from the Harry and Nancy Price Siebert Park Fund. We get this gift every year, which is awesome. In past years, it has supplied benches, picnic tables, things like that. The funds have to be used at Siebert Park. Audrey is still deciding what she will be funding with this, but today we just have to officially accept that gift. The second request we have is for a tree in memory of Daniel Keenan Beck at Beverly Park, which the committee recommends approval on. And then updates from the recreation director. Camp registrations are still going on for most camps and programs. You can register online. There are Learn to Swim community lessons that you can register online as well. And where is the part that tells me what Audrey wanted me to say? This week starts at Willow Park, the box lunch review. So please come out on Friday for that. That is the first one of the season. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Emily. Any questions? Okay, moving on to Planning and Zoning. Tom?
All right. It was a relatively quiet month and mercifully not full of much controversy. Anyway, if you look at your packet, you'll see that Colton had 83 permits and responded to 174 calls and complaints. The Planning and Zoning Committee met on May 23rd. We reviewed the implementation plan for the rental inspection program. We will continue to discuss recommended fees and staff responsibilities for the very mild 5-year inspection cycle. As we're starting to look at possible costs, they really don't look excessive, and I was very happy to see that. And I would just add that I've had a number of people from the community approach me and thank us for the fact that we're putting this in place. So there's a fair amount of community support for this inspection program, which doesn't seem to be very intrusive in my opinion. I would like to update council on our progress relating to the Community Choice Aggregation Program. Both the Planning and Zoning Committee and the Administration and Finance Committee have been reviewing a draft to the Public Utility Commission for the CCA program. Camp Hill is one of 9 boroughs who have already signed the memorandum with CCA for PA indicating our support for the program. In the petition, we would request permission to competitively bid electric purchase for any borough properties who have not enrolled in PA Power Switch. CCA is used widely in other states to allow municipalities to save money for the residents and meet climate goals by choosing energy from renewable, non-fossil fuel sources. And as I pointed out a meeting or two ago, the estimated savings are between 2 and 20% per resident. So we're kind of excited moving forward. We're reviewing the 37-page legalistic document, but everything looks good so far, and we will certainly bring that back to council for approval. The legal agreement that we're potentially signing on to is pro bono with an environmental attorney who's representing CCA, and we'll look at this, as I said, at our next committee meeting. And we plan to present these documents at the July council meeting. There will be ongoing updates and public education about this important topic as we move forward. And tonight, the committee has no action items. That's my report.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions? No. Okay. Mercedes?
Right, the Finance and Admin Committee met on May 29th at 4:30. Our next meeting is Thursday, June 20th at 4:30. That's a Thursday. We had to switch the dates. I just wanted to point that out. I have one action item on the agenda. It's to amend our recycling ordinance to meet county requirements. And the reason we're doing this is because the borough's in the process of applying for a 902 grant from the Pennsylvania DEP. And during this process, it was noted that a few slight changes needed to be made to the recycling ordinance for us to qualify. So I will make a motion later to amend that.
Thank you, Mercedes. Any questions? Okay. Moving on then to our reports of liaisons. Tim with the Borough School District. No update.
This group did not meet in the month of May, so nothing to report.
Thank you. Moving on to the Stormwater Authority. Louisa?
Okay. Stormwater Authority met on May 14th and June 11th. And I just want to explain how the Seabird Park project payment works. It's a joint project between the borough and the authority. So the authority is responsible for any stormwater-related expenses, but the borough is responsible for the rest. This first payment is all stormwater-related. So the authority has approved the payment, and the borough will pay, and then the authority will reimburse the borough 100%. And in future payment applications, we will split the amount depending on what the breakout is. Then I would just like to remind the public to stay out of the work area in Seabird Park. There are signs posted with QR codes that link to the borough website where there's a lot of information about the project, which we have also posted on social media. And so just a very few trees have been cut. Many more trees are being planted. And the creek has not been drained, but the section of the creek that is being worked on needs to be worked on without water. So the creek is being bypassed in those sections. After the project is completed, the creek will be full of water, everything will be normal. The contractor is also coming to Stormfest and will be available for questions. And that's all I have for Stormwater Authority.
Thank you, Louisa, and for the explanation about the project. Moving on to the Downtown Camp Hill Association.
I think you skipped sustainability. Tom?
Sorry, my phone was buzzing.
So I'll do my report as quickly as I can. Sustainability Committee continues to be very engaged and active in terms of the implementing the Climate Action Plan and offering resources to our community to educate and help people really get cheaper energy costs. Ms. Gibson and Tim Hawkins are working on a national initiative developed by the Oak Ridge National Lab that provides, I don't quite understand it all, but you get a map and you can look at your building and see what kind of energy it's using, its inefficiencies or efficiencies, et cetera. So we'll wait to see what develops from that, but that sounded compelling. We've already talked about the Community Choice Aggregate Program, which we're continuing to support, which I frankly think looks like a pretty terrific thing, and I hope the PUC sees to let us move forward on it. The committee continues to look at ways to incentivize switching energy sources from fossil fuel to non-fossil fuels. We discussed ways to make information on these issues more available to the borough residents by potentially having something on the website that they'd be able to click on. We mentioned the successful shredding event that we helped to coordinate. We discussed efforts in the ways of public education around food sustainability and solar panel availability and installation. And there's talk about we're trying to work on getting speakers that could come here and provide that information to the public. Efforts continue working with local businesses around the sustainability storefront effort. And finally, one of the committee's members, Attorney John Dernbach, has been invited to take part in a regional decarbonization pathways workshop to be conducted next Friday in Kansas City, Missouri. The purpose of this conference is to understand the challenges facing local and state governments around the goals of climate action and to look at how university partners can support these efforts. John, who is a professor at Widener Law School and who has made significant contributions to the efforts that are undertaken, certainly illustrates the kind of relationship this conference is encouraging. So I think it's a great example of what they're meeting to talk about. I will be attending along with John to try to represent the best I can the efforts that Sarah and the entire staff have used to date to implement the plan, and I hope I can do a good job doing that. But we'll see what kind of report we have. We're going to leave next Thursday, come back on Saturday, and all costs will be covered by the conference, no costs to the borough. That's my report.
Thank you very much. Now, Emily.
Thanks. Please bring back barbecue sauce. Downtown coordinator update. The farmers market continues to be on Tuesdays from 3 to 7 through October 15th. There are 30 vendors there this year, and there's also a composting initiative. We have a couple new businesses to welcome. Amber and Alchemy is at 2205 Market Street. It's a collection of Central Pennsylvania artisans, bath and body, jewelry, clothing, original art, home decor, candles, etc. And Joey Jack's Ice Cream, which I've heard is quite delicious, at 2208 Market Street, which is inside Tanya's Cookie Boutique. Just a reminder, during the Streetscape project, all businesses will remain open. Please go to those businesses and let them know that you're supporting them. And finally, please sign up for our e-digest and downtown email updates. We have a monthly email that goes out to residents that you can sign up for at campbellborough.com/communications. It gives a breakdown of all of the different departments in the borough and what their major priorities and actions are that are going on right now, along with the agenda for the council meeting and the packet. So it's a very comprehensive list and will help you easily find what you're looking for. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Michelle, any updates from the library board or council of governments?
I'll start with the library. Summer kickoff event is tomorrow at Frederickson. Event begins at 4 p.m. and it includes food trucks, Trinidad and Tobago Baltimore Steel Orchestra begins at 7. I believe it runs from 4 to 9 p.m. Other outdoor concerts on the lawn being held this summer include the Greater Harrisburg Concert Band and Shea Quinn. You also have time to register for the Reading Challenge that began in June. If you register by Saturday, June 15th, you will be entered in the drawing to win one of several prizes like an iPad, a pool membership, and Hershey Park passes. It's also not too late to order blueberries to support the library. They're on sale until July 2nd. And finally, there are still a few days remaining to order personalized pavers at the Hoyt Reading Plaza. There are several sizes available to have your message printed, and businesses and organizations can even include their logo. Those orders are due by June 21st. And that's it for the library. So CABCOG was quite a meeting. Presentations were given by Margaret Parsons. She's from the Greater Harrisburg Association of Realtors. It's an organization that promotes ethical and competent realtors while working to further the interests of its members and promote the value of home ownership in Perry, Dauphin, and Cumberland counties. The other presenters were Joshua Snyder and Robin Tilly Hull from Sunoco Energy Transfer. And they discussed their comprehensive pipeline integrity program that enables monitoring of their pipelines 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They discussed the National Pipeline Mapping System, which is a public viewer for the pipeline, liquefied natural gas plant, and a breakout tank. The data that you can look at either like for your county or in federal waters, one area at a time. It includes attributes and pipeline operator contact information. The Mariner East 2 pipeline travels approximately 350 miles from Ohio to Delaware County, traveling through parts of Perry County and Dauphin counties, but it goes directly through Cumberland County, and they have a terminal right in Mechanicsburg. So that's been interest to a lot of people over the years while they've been doing this. So CABCOG also had a ransomware attack, which shut everything down, and I'm only mentioning this to remind us all to be aware and to be vigilant and not click links and answer texts and all. The really cool thing I think that happened at CABCOG was that Gene Foshee came from Cumberland County, Mike Price was there from Dauphin County, and James Renshaw, who was a York County appointee. But what Gene Foshee asked us all to do is there's a facilities survey on the Cumberland County website if you haven't answered it. And it asks you about anyone who has been to any of their facilities, and so they can figure out what works and what doesn't work and make any kind of improvements. And that is my report.
Thank you, Michelle. That brings us to our second period of public comment, which is intended for residents to offer commentary on any of the specific action items that were just discussed by our committee chairs. So if you do have any comments, please come state your name, address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Greg Pearson, you know where I'm at. So what did you say early, Jenny, about this sign ordinance was being looked at in 2015, 2016?
Public comment, unfortunately, sir, is not intended for back and forth exchange.
Okay, well, you made it out. You made that point specifically to say that. That's when Trump was first in office. That's when we first had our signs out, our 20-some signs. Just so you know, we're being publicly targeted by this borough. Just pointing at you and looking at you and saying, look, be aware of it. This is what's happening. You all agreed to pay this guy to go now to negotiate. So he's going to get more money for his decisions to tell you in the first place to go and fight this. I hope you realize what you're doing. You're costing us more money by doing this. He already got supposedly $240,000. That might not be a lot to you, but $500 was a lot to me to fight it in the first place, okay? That was not refundable. That should have been hands down, constitutionally protected. But you're relying on this idiot right there. I'm looking at you, buddy. looking at him.
Please.
He's costing us money, okay? Why do you keep paying him to go negotiate it? I hope, Mark, if you are listening, do not negotiate. Make them pay. That's how I feel right now.
That would be
I am
unfortunate
so-
for all the taxpayers sitting
Yes,
in this room,
because
including
he
yourself.
should be paying for it, not us. Him, okay?
Thank you.
He should be paying for it, not me, not you. And you should not be making stupid little references, oh, well, in 2015,
Sir.
it was already done. You made that reference in public,
I
so
did.
stop.
I will
Okay?
also say that the sign ordinance, from its development to its adoption, was under Republican leadership.
Okay, it didn't go into effect till after that, though.
That's-
2021, 12,
So
okay?
those who
Because a bunch of
designed and
Democrats-
created it were Republicans.
I thought you weren't supposed to comment.
I'm not, but you're,
No,
you're,
I'm just telling you, you're paying this guy how much money? I know, yeah. You guys all voted for, let's pay him some more money. How much is it gonna cost us now to go fight it? He's the idiot who cost us this money. Look at you shining your eyes at me, shaking your head. He cost us this lawsuit. Well, your lawsuit, I guess you should say, because we won. That's so funny how that judge laughing his butt off while he wrote his rebuttal to you guys. Rudolph, with your nose so bright. That was a big finger to you, by the way, okay? Big finger to you, because he was laughing his ass off. We are spending too much money with him. He needs to go, period, okay? My next part is there's other important things that I'll be talking about at the next comment.
thank you, sir. Anyone else, please? Please come, state your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
I'm Makoa Nebel. I'm 2923 Maple Road. I just had some concerns with the Siebert Park restoration project. So mainly, like, I'm a big trail guy. Like, I like running on the trails, but I'm pretty sure, like, everyone here, not everyone runs. And I don't think it's the government's role to force someone to pay for my leisure. And I also know, like, a lot of people that don't even, like, use the park. So well, I question, like, you don't have to answer, but one thing I want you guys to, like, think about when you vote on this next is that, do you think you should force someone to pay for something that they might not even use? Because I do know a lot of people that don't even use the park. And I know that it's not that much, like, for now, but I think, like, these types of projects over time, they add up. And I think I'd like to ask you, when you vote on this project, to think whether we should spend or not to spend versus just, like, vote it in or not vote it in. And I think I'd like to ask you to vote with the mindset of spending less money versus more, because I know it sounds like a good idea, like more leisure. I just don't think it's the government's role to force someone else to pay for someone else's leisure. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We'll offer a response to that at the time that the action committee is discussed and provided summary about how the project is funded. Anyone else? No, hearing none. Okay. That brings us to our action items this evening. 13A, is there a motion and a second to adopt the police policy manual as updated? Tim moves, Michelle seconds to adopt the police policy manual as updated. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. That brings us to 13B. Is there a motion and a second to approve change order number 4 for the Siebert Park Pump Station Replacement Project to provide a no-cost time extension to increase the contract final completion date from the previously extended date of May 17th, 2024 to a new final completion date of June 28th, 2024?
So moved.
Louisa moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Emily seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Could I make a correction?
Yes.
The final completion date is August 15th, not June 28th.
Okay, so we'll make a friendly amendment and restate that. So it's extending it from May 17, 2024 to a new final completion date of August
15th.
15th, 2024. Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
Do we have to move the amended?
No, it's a friendly amendment. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion passes unanimously. That brings us to 13C. Is there a motion and a second to approve application number 2 for payment in the amount of $194,265.30 to the York Excavating Company for the Market Street Streetscape Project?
So moved.
Louisa moves. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Tim?
Tim.
Okay. Louisa and Tim move in second to approve the application number 2. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes unanimously. That brings us to 13D, approve application number 1 for payment for the Seabrook Park Stream Restoration and Trail Project in the amount of $99,800 to Aquatic Resource Restoration Company, LLC. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Louisa moves, Emily seconds. For discussion purposes, if Louisa or Sarah, whomever would like to give background.
Yeah, I can say a little bit and then I'll hand over to Sarah. So this is not a decision whether or not to go ahead with the project. That decision was made a while ago. This is just an approval for the first payment for the contractor. And I understand that not all of this is coming from taxpayer money. I understand there have been a number of grants. Maybe Sarah can elaborate on those grants.
So the project that involves the stream bank restoration is being paid for by the Stormwater Authority. It's part of their responsibility to maintain the borough's waterways in conjunction with their MS4 permit, with the borough's MS4 permit, which is a federal stormwater permit that we're required to comply with. To accompany that with the trail project, we were able to use that aspect of the project as a match for a state grant through the DCNR that allows us to put a trail, improve the trail that was already adjacent to the creek and make improvements to that so that it's ADA accessible. And so we have money from the state for that. We also have money from the Fish and Boat Commission for the kayak launch that will be installed at the Creek Road parking lot at the Conde de Gwinnett. And we will also have funds from the Lion Foundation that we will use to install educational signs throughout that area. So it becomes an environmental study area as well as a recreation facility.
So Sarah, do you have numbers, like how much is coming from grant money percentage-wise and how much from borough funds?
I mean, there's no borough funds. Yes, Mike can do that.
The trail portion of the project is about $200,000. That's funded by a $200,000 grant from DCNR. The kayak launch project is about $60,000, and that's funded 50% by a grant from Fish and Boat Commission, and the other 50% of that is also funded by DCNR.
So no taxpayer money.
Okay. Okay, so there was a motion and a second to approve application number 1 for payment for the Seabrook Park Stream Restoration Project and Restoration and Trail Project. Any other additional discussion before we call for a vote?
Yeah, I would just make a comment. I certainly understand not wanting to waste money on projects, and that's a concern that I think we all share as a council. This project is like a lot of things, public education, et cetera. It's a Abraham Lincoln concept. It's for the public good. So in our determination, this seemed to be something good for the community, which is why we supported it. And I think most of us don't believe it's a waste of money, even if not everybody gets use of it, because people without children still pay school taxes because it's for the public good. It's something that's part of our democratic process and kind of the way we try to live together as a community. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Okay, so all in favor for application number 1 for payment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion to approve application number 1 is approved unanimously. That brings us to 13E. Is there a motion and a second to approve an amendment to the enterprise lease agreement to add a V-Box salt spreader?
So moved.
Louisa moves, Mercedes seconds to approve the amendment to the lease agreement. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. That brings us to 13F. Is there a motion and a second to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Camp Hill Association effective July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025?
Second.
Michelle moves, Emily seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes unanimously. That brings us to 13G. Is there a motion to accept a gift from the Harry and Nancy Price Siebert Park Fund in the amount of $1,380?
So moved.
Emily moves, Michelle seconds to approve the gift. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes unanimously. It brings us to 13H. Is there a motion and a second to approve the planting of a tree in memory of Daniel Keenan Beck at Beverly Park?
So moved.
Emily moves, Michelle seconds to approve the planting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to our last action item for the evening, 13I. Is there a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2024-05, amending the recycling ordinance? Mercedes moves, Michelle seconds to approve the amendment to the ordinance. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. That brings us to our last period of public comment. Again, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Bob Benora, 14 South 24th Street, Camp Hill. I have a petition here to, let's see, we the undersigned residents of South 24th Street Borough request the Borough Council to have the street between Chestnut and Market marked as resident and service vehicles only. Violators will be fined and towed. Currently, the high school students park everywhere. They park walking driveways. They park right up to the corner. I'm sorry, Chief, the cops aren't taking care of this. They're out there playing football, throwing stones, hitting cars, and then, God forbid, one of our wives goes out to the grocery store. She comes back, there's no place to park. She has to park 3 or 4 blocks away and walk her groceries in. That's not right. And then, when the school lets out, the honk fest, you'd think they were just lost their virginity under the bleachers, coming up the street, blowing their horns every day that the school comes in. So I would like to limit it to resident parking only. And my compromise would be to restrict parking between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. No parking except for residents.
Thank you for your comment. We'll take that. Sure, we'll
So who do I give that to?
just hand it to me, please, sir. We'll have Public Works or Public Safety consider it in committee. We'll provide committee minutes. So depending upon what other items, timing is to be determined, but that would be the appropriate venue for that discussion. Any other comments, please?
So this is a concern I have on North 24th Street, the 100 block. For 6 to 9 months now, I've been in contact with Colton about a water issue that keeps going out onto the street. My mother-in-law lives 2 houses down. She fell several months ago on that, and here's her leg, okay? Just so you guys can see it. This is her leg. You can call her and ask her. Give you all that documentation. Reached out to Colton a couple months ago, taken care of. We're gonna take care of it. We're in the process of it. Now, it has brown moss under the water, slipperier than ice, okay? This is a big public concern. I've addressed this 3 or 4 times in the past 9 months. I'm tired of it, okay? It needs to be addressed within 30 days, taken care of, or do you think this other lawsuit was something? One's coming down the pike, okay? 30 days to do that. For you, Chief, My neighbor across the street from 25th Street had a hit and run last September. I've talked to your officers several times. I saw it, witnessed a hit and run. Nothing was done. Again, I wanted to give testimony. I physically saw it. I watched the whole thing happen. It's a borough resident. I have all the documentations, all the pictures, everything you need to know. 3 or 4 times I've dealt with your office. Different cops, we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to get to the bottom of it. Well, here I'm just giving you warning. 30 days to give my neighbor 350 North 25th Street his $500 deductible that he had to pay for no reason, okay? And I want that guy cited for hit and run. Here we go. We have a hit and freaking run in our borough. I witnessed it, described the man. Why wouldn't you take action? Why wouldn't your cops do something? No, they got to sit on their asses over at the bypass looking on their little phone seeing, oh, what car's going by doesn't have registration, okay? Meanwhile, we have freaking people running stop signs rapid in this area. I run just about a 5K every day in the borough. I know y'all see me. I've almost been hit several times. People just don't stop at stop signs, but I never see the police inside the borough pulling people over for running stop signs. I see them at the bypass, at the end of 25th Street, just checking their little license plates. I have a hit and run. I witnessed it. Gave statements to your officers. Nothing. You have 30 days. The next lawsuit's going to be a lot bigger than the one you're paying. You're quite welcome, Jenny.
My name is Jennifer Hoover. Thank you. President.
I just want to say some of my comments were probably misdirected towards you guys when it should have been directed towards the state and federal government. I still feel the same way. I thought that there was more taxpayer dollars spent on that. But I would just like to say with, I understand like the public good idea. I just think that I believe that the individuals are wiser in spending their money towards what they want rather than like a local or state or federal government. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else?
Bonnie Bentz, 3015 Columbia Avenue. I had 2 comments. One, I wanted to just lend my support again to the community choice aggregation option. I know that when we began the climate action plan process and we had public meetings, there were differing opinions regarding the climate action plan. However, community choice aggregation goes beyond. I mean, it really is beyond a climate action plan. It is about our municipality, you as our council, being advocates to enable this community, every resident, the opportunity to obtain a lower kilowatt price per hour. Right now, our default is PP&L, and I am one of the few people that shops for a lower price. But I'm only one person. I can't advocate, give me a better price. You know, the borough is going to have that opportunity to say, we've got 7,000 or however many households we have. What price can you give us per kilowatt hour? Whether it's green, whether it's, you know, whatever type of fuel or energy basis the supplier has. Our goal as part of the climate action, the sustainability committee, is to be able to obtain a price that is significantly lower than PP&L. So it is truly a win-win for every single resident in this community. So I hope that this legal agreement that was presented to you by the environmental attorney will be approved by you next month. And I'm hoping that we may still be incorporated into the presentation to the PUC, and that it won't be too late for that, for us to be included. The second item I just wanted to clarify. The sign ordinance, which we passed in December of '21 was not a sign ordinance that had been worked on since 2015. It was a sign ordinance that was presented to us as a Pennsylvania model ordinance based upon the Reed case in Arizona. So it was a relatively brand-new ordinance that was presented to us, and it was not Republican or Democrat in nature when it was evaluated by council. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Anyone else, please?
David Margulis, 1714 Lincoln Drive. I have copies of my comments in case I run out of time. Chief, I don't know if there's enough to get around to you, but it's not great literature, so don't worry about it. Couldn't put you out, put your sleep tonight. Okay, this is regarding the conditional use appeal that you'll be dealing with.
And sir, just so you know, we probably won't be able to exchange an answers if you do have
Oh,
questions.
no, I didn't.
But
In fact, that's why I left this
Okay.
with you, because, another suggestion is that I can probably get some of the answers from either Sarah or
directly.
Colton. So you can just let me know the best way to do that. Just to paraphrase, I thought that the appeal request was well put together, but I do have some general reservations regarding zoning exemptions. The primary one I know that I have and has heard from neighbors is whether or not if there are exemptions made, it's going to be because of extraordinary circumstances, or will be a precedent that other people can use for future exemptions for short-term rentals. There are lingering concerns, and the residents know that improvements were made and a rental business was started without prior consultation of the borough. We also know that the property owner was issued a citation for failure to submit occupant reports as requested. So that doesn't engender a lot of confidence, although, I just want to let you know why there might be some ongoing concerns. We have no way of knowing whether this was an innocent oversight, which frankly was pretty common throughout the country, or it was a calculated effort to renovate the property and begin short-term rentals, realizing that you could ask for an exception later. I think some of the logic in the conditional use request is specious. They heavily emphasize that the burden of proof is on the borough to show that there's imminent harm, but they don't reference at all or indicate how their request, or I think inadequately, is provided under the kind of the overarching purpose for low density housing provisions, and I indicated the statement there, which emphasizes some things that in that area we're looking for single family, protect from incompatible use, and encourage owner occupancy and neighborhood stability. So it does not address how that this exception needs to be made in light of the fact that that's the overarching purpose. My son grew up in Camp Hill and moved back to the borough, and he gave me actually some excellent points that I wouldn't have come up with on my own. First, you're taking a property off the market for short-term rental, and if you're looking for harm, his point was you immediately deprive some individual of the opportunity to live in Camp Hill. And there are very limited number of properties. 4 people who want a traditional neighborhood area, set aside in the zoning. As a former school board member, I object to the argument that, oh, it's great, we're not going to bring any more kids into the community. that most residents, as you pointed out, do not have children here, yet they've supported taxes and are really the bedrock of why we still have a strong independent school district. In fact, my son has no children, and he's proud of the fact that he can contribute to that community asset. And then I think the assertion of hardship was particularly difficult for me to accept. And I think you should reject that as in your consideration. And the reason is that that property is going to be profitable through either long-term lease or would be profitable through either long-term lease or sale. And the issue for the property owner is really maximization of profit. And if maximization of profit were the primary consideration in zoning, there would be no point in having zoning ordinances for residential properties. So, I'm a retired administrator, so I'm kind of, I really haven't come to a conclusion myself on this one. I think it's a tough call, but I think that there are some overall issues regarding zoning, and I think people's understanding of the intent of when that last zoning change was made on what we're trying to preserve here and the reasons for it. And then I did have some questions, and would that be best talking to Sarah Colton?
Yeah, I think we're beyond our time limit, and we'll try and get you those answers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else, please?
Hello, my name is Jack Straub. I live at 2602 Market. I was just going to say the gentleman in the front row had a good point. I went to Camp Hill many years ago. I guess we were all knuckleheads at one point, but also I saw a lot on that street, and it's kind of tough, the one way with parking on both sides. I'd attest to that, and then I'd also say I was wondering if maybe the police or someone can get involved in, there's a lot of speeding on North 26th Street, Market North 26. Cars going crazy amounts of speed, probably around 50 miles an hour, I'd assume. My concern mostly is that there's kids right across the street from me and the neighbors, and it's just mainly a safety concern. So, thank you.
We can discuss that in public safety, perhaps. Anyone else? No, okay. Thank you for your patience this evening. That brings us to closing remarks by council. Are there any closing remarks?
I would like to make a remark. I just want to say thank you to all of you that came out tonight. It's really heartwarming to see members of the community participate with the thoughtful amount of participation that you're doing. I really appreciate it. Our job up here isn't easy. Our job in committee isn't easy. And it's really great to see everyone take seriously what we're working on and trying to decide about. So thank you.
So I have two things. One of them is that the end of May, it was Public Works and EMS week, and I would like to thank our Public Works Department, who sometimes go unnoticed and unappreciated because they're just so good at what they do. And when there's no complaints, everyone's like, who? So I just want you to know that we know how hard you work, and we do really appreciate you. All the time, not just on those weeks. And as Emily said, it's important to us to get feedback from people. Hopefully we can all be respectful, because that helps listening. I think that we can all treat each other as having the same goal, which is to have our borough be the best place that it can be. So thank you for coming, thank you for speaking, and for caring about the community. Our minutes for committee and council are always on the website if you want to keep in touch and can't come to meetings, and our email address is on there. if you have questions where Jennifer can get back to you and we can put things that you have on committee agendas so that we can help resolve issues that you're having. So, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else?
Yeah, just wanted to echo some of the sentiment. I'm always excited when there's more than 2 people here, especially younger people. And a lot of the work that we do that gets on the agenda happens at the committee level. So for example, like the speeding issue, that's public safety. We talk about it. We do like speed studies. So that what we were talking about earlier about Country Club, we've done like a bunch of speed studies there to determine like how many infractions there are. We've also learned that a lot of the speeding and running of stop signs, like almost every time, is residents, like our own neighbors that do that. So kind of having those conversations as well. So a lot of that work gets done. Any finance questions related to like the borough expenditures would be through finance, which is my committee. So that's where a lot of the work gets done. And then we bring it here and do like the briefer discussion, but come to the committee meetings or reach out because that's where we do a lot of the work.
Anyone else? Louisa?
Yeah, I also wanted to thank everybody who came out for public comment, especially those that were respectful and professional.
Thank you, Louisa. Josiah?
I just wanted to say in regards to parking around the school, while I hear the issue, as a high school student, we do have to get to school in some way, and I don't know exactly what the street was or if there was a few streets exactly, but it would open up floodgates for other streets that people would want to like do that too, and then the kids would have to park somewhere because we do have to get to school. So I mean, we would eventually like be moving. You might move us further and further back, but it would clog up other streets. While I hear the issue, yes, we do have to get to school in some way, and I know it does get crowded, but there is room to park.
This is a time for comments by council members. So if you have follow comment, you can email us or talk with us afterwards. But I appreciate the student representative's perspective on the issue.
Anyways, I would just say like I appreciate your comment, but that's just my opinion on the situation.
Thank you, Josiah. Anyone else? Okay, I thank you. I thank everyone who's offered public comment along with the passion with which it was given. It's, I think, probably quite obvious that each of us are passionate as well. So sometimes it's hard not to reply in a similar manner sometimes. So to the extent that we can all act with civility and respect, it goes a long way. So with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.